Hello students, this is the second video of chapter A Period of Transition. In last video children we have studied about the sources through which we come to know about our history as well as about Reformation and Renaissance or Renaissance movement. Today we are going to discuss about Industrial Revolution and Imperialism. So first we will take Industrial Revolution. So what is Industrial Revolution? Revolution, basically if we see, revolution means the change. So the change which came into the industries or reform which came into the industries are known as Industrial Reformation. Let's see its definition. The Industrial Revolution was a fundamental change in the way goods were produced from human labor to machines, which means that previously the products or the material or the articles were made by the humans or by handmade things people were manufacturing or they were producing it by hand. Now this system of production was replaced by the machine. So in spite of making everything by the hand, now the things were produced by with the help of machines. The Industrial Revolution took place in 18th century. Now let us understand the factory system of production which developed in the 18th century in Europe, especially in England. So rich merchants, they have set up the factories, installed newly invented machines. So first of all, what they have done, they have set up the factories. First of all, the factories were set up. Then rich merchants, what they have done, they have installed new invented machines. Then after this, they bought raw materials from the markets and employed workers on wages to produce goods on machines. So in order to get the finished product, this long process was followed by the factory system of production by the Britishers, by the people of England. So first factory was set up, then machine was brought, after that raw material was used, manufacturing by the workers, and then finally the final outcome as a product. So the development, this process, this whole development was known as the Industrial Revolution. It is called a revolution. Why? Because it made a radical change. As I have told, it was a quite rapid change which brought the change in the from handmade industries to the machine made goods, from handmade goods to the machine made goods. So people switched from, in spite of using handmade goods, things making by hands, to by machine made goods. Now the reason for beginning of Industrial Revolution in England. Now the question arises, why Industrial Revolution was brought first time in England only? The reasons are, first, England had an abundant supply of natural resources. So all the natural resources was ample in number in England. So which, especially coal and iron, so which is basic need of the industrialization. To set up an industry, we need coal and iron, and that was more in supply, more in number, which was available in England. Second, it had a stable government which basically encouraged trade and commerce. So the most important thing, the Britishers could focus, in spite of suppressing any rebel or anything, they only focused on the the encouragement of trade and commerce. They worked for it and achieved their goals. Then the third reason, with the abolishment of serfdom in the 18th century, a large number of people became free. It was a kind of a bondage labor which they were working. So basically, if we ask what was serfdom, so a condition of bondage where the peasants means farmers, were forced to work and live on the land that belongs to the landowner whom they had to obey. So whatever landowner, they used to have some of the we can say bondage labor, those who had to follow whatever the owners, the landowners used to say. So now with the abolishment of that, with the end or cancellation of serfdom, many people became free. So as they were not any bonded laborer now, so they were free to go any place in the part of the city, or they could go to anywhere wherever they wanted. So these people, they started moving towards the city areas, where people needed more and more workers for the factories, and here these people worked as an quite cheap labor, because as they were more in number, so cheaply those people were available easily. These people were available, and these people also wanted employment, as well as industries also wanted people to work in their industries. So it fulfilled the need of each other, both fulfilled the desire and need of the each other, industries as well as these bonded laborers. Then apart from this, the geographical exploration, or we can say the colonization. So as we have seen, many areas, or the countries, or rather I would say most of the part of Asia and Africa became the colony of the Britishers. India was also one of the colony of the Britishers, and as we know how long the Britishers have ruled in our country. So basically there was a quite benefit of the Britishers which they were getting from these colonies. First, that these colonies became the basis of their raw material easily, and availability of raw material was there from India, which could be taken by the Britishers to manufacture the goods in their own industries. And after manufacturing the goods in their industries, they were again selling those goods in our Indian as well as in the Asian and African continents, which became a good market for their selling of the products. So what do we need in industries? First of all, a cheap raw material, plus profit could be earned from the selling of the product, and that both the things were fulfilled by these colonies, both the needs were fulfilled by it. So therefore it was one of the great reason. Another reason, that is the improved transport system. uh, an atmosphere of scientific inquiry was there, due to which many more discoveries and inventions were there, through which many transportation system was possible. And due to the help of this transportation system, now raw material as well as the finished goods could be transferred from, or transported from one place to the another place. As we have seen in last video also, the invention of steam engine was also there. So apart from this, many more machines were there, those who could help us in the transportation. So these reasons were there why this industrial revolution has taken place in England. Now we are going to study about the some of the inventions which has taken place, and which has really added more and more towards to the industrial revolution which has taken place in England, right? So all these were basically due to the reason of Renaissance children, because the people during the Renaissance era, people started inquiry into the matters, Renaissance and Reformation. So the thinking became much more broader, and due to the free thinking and more broader thinking aspects, people started inquiring, and they started questioning themselves, and due to this it led to many inventions and discoveries in the world. So out of which we can see the spinning jenny, which was invented by James Hargreaves. As you can see this machine, children, so this was invented by James Hargreaves. Then water frame, it was invented by Richard Arkwright. Spinning mule by Samuel Crompton. Power loom by Edmund Cartwright. Flying shuttle by John Kay. And steam engine, as we know, by James Watt. So all these were the inventions which has taken place in England, and therefore in Europe. And due to this it has added more in the industrial revolution. Now the impact of industrial revolution, as we can see, capitalism as well as imperialism, these two are the major impact which has taken place due to the industrial revolution. First, capitalism. Now what is capitalism? Capitalism is a new system which means of productions were privately owned and operated for profit, which means the private industries were set up, those who were working for their own profit, for their own industries. They were not working for the people, they were not working for the society, they were not working for the government. Rather, the private industries were there. Just an example, if we see, like Reliance Industries by Ambani Industries, right? So Reliance, they these in this industry basically work for their own profit, not for the profit of the government, not for the profit of any society. So therefore the people, those who are working for their own capital means money, so therefore they were known as the capitalist. So capitalism is the economic system in which business are owned and run for profit by individuals and not by the state. So as we know, there are some of the companies which are run by state government or the center government. Like an example, if I had to compare, like we have got a BSNL. BSNL is a telecom industry, is a telecom provider, where people could connect to each other, through which they could talk, they could use the data net also. Similarly, we have got Geo also. So Geo industry is also telecom industry, but Geo is owned by a company, by an individual, where the profit will go to the owner of Geo, whereas the BSNL's profit will be going to the government. So here people, they were not working for the capitalism. The capitalism was the people, those who were working for their own industry and for their own profit. So industrialization or industrial revolution has given birth to the capitalism, okay, and as well as to the two social classes, one factory owners and the other, uh, that is the workers, one who was employing the people, and the second, those who were the employees, those who were the people, those who were working for the industries. Now imperialism. What is imperialism? Imperialism is the policy of extending political and economic control over a weak country by a powerful one. So we start extending our territory in forms of political as well as economic control, okay, and obviously who can win over the other? A person who is strong will definitely win over the uh, to a weaker country or to a weaker person. So that was the imperialism. So India was also a part of the imperialism. Why? Because Britishers have applied the policy of imperialism in our country, therefore they tried to control us political as well as economically. So Britishers, when they came in India, they came for the economic purpose, for the business. Slowly and steadily they started taking control economically as well as politically in our country, and as we know, we have been after that been ruled by the Britishers for very longer period. So that is what is the imperialism. The Industrial Revolution led to a tremendous increase in the production of goods, as we know. The European countries needed markets for the manufactured goods and new source of cheap raw material. So both things were there in our country, in Asia and Africa especially, as well as in India being part of Asia also. That India has also worked for as the good source of the manufactured goods, where they could sell. Good markets were there where they could sell their finished goods, the goods which were produced in the industries, as well as the raw materials could also be taken from our country. So most of the countries of the world were trying to adopt this policy. Why? Because they were getting raw materials at the cheaper rate, and finished goods at the they could sell the products in our country at the higher rate. So in both the ways profit was there. So therefore the imperialism was much more important for these countries. So this led to acquire many colonies in Asia and Africa. So the race to acquire colonies peaked during the later half of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. Almost whole of the non-industrialized world had come under the control of a few industrialized country. So most of the part of the world was controlled by some of the countries, those who were leading in the industries. Now the impact of imperialism, we can say, first and foremost, that is the as we have discussed just now, it became the market of the finished goods. Second, decline of cottage industries due to the competition of machine made goods in our country, children, as well as in the other countries. The handmade industries or cottage industries, they started declining because most of the people now forced to have the machine made goods. Now people were opting more for the machine made goods in spite of going for the handmade goods. So due to this, cottage industry started declining, and it was a great loss for the cottage industries. Then colonies were treated as mere suppliers of raw materials, as we have discussed just now. Only the raw materials at the cheaper rate was easily available in our country. So therefore people or the countries wanted to adopt the policy of imperialism. Then next, economic exploitation. Easily economic exploitation was done, as we have seen, cheaper raw material plus higher profits in finished good. Apart from this, if we see an example of India, there were many taxation which was imposed in the country, and the profit was definitely given to the Britishers and not to the Indians. Indians were forced to give them taxes. So in various ways, it is not only the one way, but various ways were adopted by the countries through which people were economically exploited. Then agriculture was modified. Agriculture was modified how? To suit the requirements of imperialist countries. Like Indians were forced to grow indigo in their fields. Now indigo is what? Indigo is a crop which is grown in the field, and after growing of that particular crop, the land has to be kept barren for 3 to 4 years, because indigo is a basically kind of a dye which is used, no, dyeing of the clothes. Like all of us must be using that dye at our home, like ujala and all, to make the clothes much more whiter. So this it changed the way of the growing of the crops in India. Why? Because Indians were forced to grow such crops only, those who were in need in the in England, because in England there was the more demand of indigo as well as of the tea. So Indians were forced to grow tea and indigo in our country, and that to sell those crops at the cheaper rate to the Britishers. So now what was the loss of the Indians in indigo? Because the land has to be kept for barren for 3 to 4 years. That means the income which farmers could have got after growing the crop for each year, so there was a loss of money for 3 to 4 years, plus loss of raw material which they were selling, that was also at the lower price, or the price which is fixed by the Britishers. So with this I conclude the chapter, children. After this, question answers will be discussed. Thank you.